Rap News Street Politics, best hood channel on YouTube, and we back again to touch on a crazy topic that's really popping out the city right now, man. Peace between the black hoods in LA. Now, specifically, we've seen the neighborhood Crips, the Gangstas, and the Hoovers get together on a couple occasions and try to align themselves with this peace movement throughout the city, specifically in Los Angeles. Now, this is coming right after Compton and a few of the Paru sets out there had a peace walk down Rosecrans to really set things straight in their city. Now, for y'all that don't know, Compton and LA politics are different. So this is why this move would specifically impact hoods on the west and the east side of Los Angeles and South Central. Now, like I said, them three factions have got together, but the implications for something like this could be so crazy, and man, it may seem far-fetched, but almost every black hood, especially in the Crip card, could be affected by this move. So that's why we asked the question, what would peace look like in LA between the black hoods? So what a lot of people don't know outside the city is that it's more than just these three cars that are aligned, and that politic throughout the city, and that could be affected by something like this. So off the bat, we already know we got neighborhood Crips. Most of them dudes is gonna be Crip gangs, CGs, not gangster Crips, and they're gonna be pushing that dude's time. Now, we also have hoods that aren't neighborhood Crips, but are Crip gangs and still push the dude's time. And then we also have gangster Crips that are aligned with neighborhood Crips and don't push the three. Now, aside from that, something that y'all may also hear about is the Rollin car. That's going to be specific to West Side Crip gangs in that Rollin car from the 30s to the 100s. These dudes have sat down at the table as well. Then aside from that, you got the Hoovers. You got mostly criminals, but you also have a gangster Crip Hoover set. You got Mafia Crips, Block Crips, and this move would probably touch on a couple hustler Crips that could be affected by this as well as some other gangs that are just Crips that don't push the deuce or the tray time. But like I said, something like this could affect all of these cars throughout the city. So in actuality, it's really a well-organized mess that's really popping off in Los Angeles right now with so many different sets forming alliances that may not follow the guidelines that was set forth when these sets were originally put together. But nonetheless, you can really break it down to about 2 or 3 sides that are either allies or they're at war in the city. So let's jump right into it.
Us in the 60s ain't been having no problems.
Who beefs? Who gangbanging?
The LA Crip peace meeting, right?
Citywide peace meeting for the Crips in LA.
You know, it's been a few peace talks, peace walks.
It seems like the streets is maturing. Matter of fact, they are growing up. The streets of LA.
What they doing out here, Taco?
Peace.
Peace. The 60s 9-0, so this really happened.
This really happened.
This really happened.
Period. And
All
they're
right.
happy and proud of it.
All right.
The Crippin' was never supposed to be this divided. Dudes like Tookie Williams and Raymond Washington really was preaching the alliance between the Crippin' on the west side and the east side of the city, with the west side Crips and the east side Crips. Of course, as we see today, it's gotten way beyond that point. And we got to start in this area right here, man, with the A-Tray Gangstas, the neighborhood Rollin 90 Crips, the neighborhood Rollin 60 Crips, and the Hoovers. So the A-Trays have always been long-standing rivals of the 9-0s and the 60s.
I hold this cheat shit down like an anchor. You wonder why? Cause I'm from A-Tray Gangsta. I'm from A-Tray Gangsta. 3 times, it's for A-Tray Gangsta. I'm from A-Tray Gangsta.
People have really gave the 9-0s credit for creating the divide between the neighborhood Crips and the gangster Crips. And when the 60s start beefing with the A-Trays, it seems like everything kind of got blown out of proportion with those two sides that made people choose you either gonna be from neighborhood or you gonna rock with the gangster Crips.
If I let this thing rip, it ain't no coming back. These niggas plotting on me need to fall back. From the 30s to the 100s, yeah, we all strapped. And if a nigga want war, nigga, all that.
But if I let this thing rip, ain't no coming back. All these niggas plotting on me need to fall back. From the 30s to the 100s, yeah, we all strapped. And any nigga want war, yeah, all that.
This is where the Hoovers came into play, where they started rocking with Gangsta Crips. That's who they was identifying with. And I believe they was already having issues with hoods in the hundreds like UG, who are also a part of that Rollin 100 neighborhood Crip card. So a peace move can really be monumental all in this area right here, which is really one of the deadliest parts of the city, man. We seen dudes like Young and Hefe from A-Tray Gangsta be with this. Lil AD from 60s. Don Bonelli speaking on this. Kev Mack from the 60s is playing a role. Lil Space Ghost from 9-0 playing the role. We know the Space Ghost name rings bells in the 90s. And it said the Hoovers have came out as well. So with something like this, if the 9-0s in the 60s stop beefing with the A-Trays and the Hoovers in this section, hoods like 6-7 neighborhood Crips and the Menlos, who are right in between the A-Trays and the Hoovers, will also fall into place. Now, everything I'm saying, man, it's like hypothetical, ripple effect, domino effect shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, these are the implications these kind of moves could have because they that big.
Ayy, 2 fingers thumbs up, nigga gon' A stump, nigga can't H stump, the nigga chuck the gang up. 2 fingers thumbs up, nigga gon' A stump, nigga can't H stump, the nigga chuck the gang up. Oh, nigga, you ain't never saw no nigga standing on the corner with some locs and some old niggas. We snap.
Now with the Hoovers, there's a lot of details that go into this because there's multiple Hoover hoods over here. On the south side of Florence, you got 7-4, 8-Tray, 9 Deuce, 9-4, 107, and 11 Deuce. And as you can see, 11 Deuce is going to stretch all the way back to Westmont in them hundreds. Now, this is where things get tricky because the Rollin Hundreds is at this Peachtree as well. But the Rollin Hundreds is comprised of multiple sets. It's not just one hood like the 30s, 40s, 60s, 90s. It's a lot going on over here. And this is where we get to them hoods that we said is Block Crips.
West Nine Buddy said, "Lay me a shooter. I am not a red crab, so you know that I'm a shooter. Chase a nigga down his block. I ain't missing 30 shots. Make a nigga do a flip, knock a nigga out his shot. Bitch, I'm really with the gang on BF. My gun bang. You wanna see a dead body and follow me? I know the way we do this shit like every day on Lil Flame is 2 weeks. Pull up, hop it out, give it up. That's on me.
So we got about 3, arguably 4 Block Crip hoods over here with some notable members that you may know. Tunchi 5, Snoopy Harvard, said Bino is associated with this section. Thirsty O, Cool Corleone. These dudes is popping right now. They outside and they've been pushing beef with the Hoovers very hard. And what we've heard from these dudes, amidst the meetings, BFG Blue Flame Gang, which is 107 block, UG, and 113th Street block, is not with the Peachtree. And these dudes also gonna be tight-knit with Pimp Town, which is a newer set. Now, I don't know how much these dudes play into the equation, but they gonna be there as well. Now, the Bloccs make up a piece of the hundreds, but again, the hundreds were there. But the thing is, Bloccs also beef with other hoods that's in the hundreds. They beefing with 111, neighborhood Crip, which is also a set that's part of the hundreds. And they also tied with 11-5, neighborhood Crips, another piece of the hundreds. Now, I don't know if this is a deadly war between these two sets. We done seen dudes sliding a couple years ago and saying some dissing between the two. So they got some internal beef over here. So I would imagine Block ain't the ones that showed up. They could be some older dudes from UG, or Block could have been the ones to show up. But it could have really been them 111s or them 11-5s that showed up for the piece to represent the hundreds. There's also the Hard Time Hustlers over here, as well as the Bud Long Gangstas. Now, Bud Long is one of them Gangsta Crip hoods that we told y'all about that's kind of going against the grain of how they started. They beef with the A-Trays, they beef with the Hoovers, and they fuck with the hundreds. So what we could see, if the young life from Block and UG is not with it, pure speculation, pure just, you know what I'm saying, going off the cuff with this shit, we can see hoods like 111 and 11-5 be with that, But I could really see, man, Block breaking off from being a part of the Hundreds to take a stand against this peace treaty and to keep the beef alive with the Hoovers. So the Bloccs, these hoods in this section right here, we can see these dudes kind of just on their own island right now. I don't know where the Hard Time Hustlers stand, but I also know they've also had a beef. I don't know if that's still going on and active with the 111s. So the Hundreds is a very delicate place right now for the peace treaty, but somebody's with it over here. That's the thing. So let's just put 111 and the 11-5s to be with that peace treaty. And again, hoods like Hard Time, Bud Long, and the Bloccs, they stand in their ground right now. But even with that being said, this leaves room for dudes like 99 Mafia and another Hard Time Hustler set, 103 Hard Time, to end their beef with some of the Hundreds as well, because 103 Hard Time is not going to be like 104 Hard Time. They're not a part of the Hundreds. They fuck with the Hoovers in this section. And 99 Mafia, they've been known to be on and off with A-Tray Gangstas, but they've also been known to beef it with the Block hoods and the Hundreds. So these dudes could now potentially be cool with at least the 111s and 11-5s of the Hundreds. Still some crazy implications with this, man. Now, other things that could be implied with this, something that nobody's really talking about, is where the Bloods stand in this whole peace movement right now.
You paid for it, I get that shit for the F, nigga.
Back in high school, yeah, I graduated with all F's. I got all F tats, yeah, it's tatted up on my flag. When I beat some B team, little niggas better step. If I feel animosity, I get it up off my chest.
Tryna fuck, bitch, let me be your best friend.
So you see this whole section between the 8-Trays, the 9-0s, and the Hundreds is gonna be the borderline to Inglewood. Now we know the 9-0s and the Hundreds, as well as the 60s, have beefed it hard with Inglewood family and the other Inglewood blood and Pyru sets alike. But 8-Tray Gangsta has had good relations with some of these blood hoods out here because of the beef they share with the neighborhood Crips. So to take it a step further, man, we have dudes from the 90s and the 60s potentially coming together with the 8-Trays. The Hoovers as well have also been said to have some decent relationships with the Inglewood Bloods. Now, I don't know if this is all of them or if it's just Inglewood family that have been decent with the Hoovers. But what we could see here, man, is 8-Tray and the Hoovers could potentially bring Inglewood family to the table if everything goes right between the neighborhood and the gangster car. And you know, this really opens up the piece to a whole nother level, because with Inglewood family having a extremely deep set and a lot of influence in Inglewood, they well respected as well as the other sets over here. But if we can see the Inglewood families putting their differences aside, especially with the 60s and the 90s, this could have a ripple or a domino effect with hoods like NHP, Inglewood Neighborhood Pyru. Sitnella Park would already be with that because they pretty much all the way in with Inglewood family. So that would come as a given with Inglewood and Sitnella Park. And Westside Avenue Pyru will also be potentially open to the peace treaty if the Inglewood family Gangsta Bloods was willing to come to the table with their longtime rivals in the 60s and the 90s. Now, where does that leave Queen Street? I think Queen Street would be open to that as well. You know, the Bloods in Inglewood are very tight-knit. There's been known to be some beef in the past between some of these hoods. I don't think it's out of control at this point. I think everything looks pretty good over there on that side of town. So everybody over here, including Center Park and the Weirdos, I think would be with it. Now, a hood that I would have a question mark about is Crenshaw Mafia. Now, with Crenshaw Mafia always being tight with Denver Lane doesn't have a stake in the race in terms of having a side to choose from, because they've been known to beef it with the Hoovers and the neighborhood Crips. I can't say what their current relationship is right now with 8-Tray, but with them beefing with the Hoovers and the neighborhoods, I would say the alliance between Denver Lane and Crenshaw Mafia may be tougher to move. But as you can see, we already got an enormous situation on our hands when the Inglewood Bloods are implicated in something like this, because we also can't forget about the legends in Inglewood.
Fuck the op bitch, they kicked her out, shake her ass home. What the fuck was a nigga thinking? Never bring him home. I slip a little snap. Bad guy, yeah, big yo. Yeah, you from the game? Don't let the Crip who did your put on. All black man, black hoodie, get my boogie on. Cremate or 6 feet, we want the niggas gone. Y'all ain't celebrate when your fired fucking came home. Why you hesitate to tell that fuck nigga that he wrong?
Now, we know the legends rock with the neighborhood Crips, one of few Crip hoods, along with the Tongans, in Inglewood. So, if the families and the other Inglewood Bloods are able to come to the table with some of the other neighborhood Crips, that would automatically include the legends as well. So, you know, where we at right now, we already got damn near 50% of the West Side hoods potentially coming to the table off this move right here. Now, we know it's a lot going on the East Side, but it's still a lot of hoods on the other side of Florence as well, going back up to the 60s. Now, we've talked about a number of hoods, including the Bloccs, Crenshaw Mafia, Denver Lane. There's some real question marks between them right now because Denver Lane and Crenshaw Mafia don't have to fuck with nobody else. The Bloccs don't have to fuck with the Hunters. And other sets, once we go back up north, it's some more sets over there that really have no stake in the race either. Some sets that will potentially be looking to still beef it. We got the Brims, V&G's, Harvard Park, and Fruittown.
Welcome to the set, this the land of the brand. Where we gang bang from the streets to the pen. Nigga, what it is. Nigga, what it do. From the deuce to the nest to the motherfucking fruit. Ay. Welcome to the set, this the land of the brand. Baby, where we gang bang and scream at fake chin. Nigga, what it is. Nigga, what it do. From the deuce to the nest to the motherfucking fruit. Look, nigga, all face getting ran to the back. Land of the brand, up for packing out naps in my.
Now, the Brims beefing with the neighborhood Crips and the Hoovers as well. So there's really no incentive for these dudes to say we don't want to stop beefing it. You know what I'm saying? They're not aligned with either side of the peace tree. They do have good relations with the Inglewood Bloods, but I don't think that's enough to move the Brims off their position, off their current position that they have on the west side, beefing with the Hoovers, beefing with the 60s, with the Rollin 50s and the 40s, as well as the 6-7 and the Menlos. So we'll leave them areas alone. Now, when we get over here and start talking about these Brim hoods, it's also a whole lot going on between the Gangstas and the neighborhoods in this section. So like it was said, hoods from the 30s to the 100s was at these peace talks. So the 30s and the 40s and the 50s would be included in that as well. Now, recently on Skip Townsend channel, we seen Spody Face and 4 Extra, some guys that y'all may not think would be talking about any of this peace shit. These dudes said they would all of that.
For sure, I always want peace in my neighborhood. I don't want harm to come to my neighborhood, and I definitely don't want nobody to die in my neighborhood. For sure, I'm gonna push for peace. You get what I'm saying? In my area, I always want that in my area. You get what I'm saying? Watch these kids grow up over here. These grandmas watch me grow up over here. So of course I'm gonna push for that.
All right, well shit, I'm gonna push for y'all. Y'all pushing for peace.
You know what I'm saying? They with it for their community, and it looked like they ready for some change in their section. So with the 40s coming to the table, and the 40s is a hood that, again, most people is not thinking they would any of that. Initially, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, man, these dudes may take the same stance as Fleazy Gang, Blue Flame with Tunchi now. They not with none of that. But Skip, again, linked up with these dudes, and they said they was. So aside from the Brims, we got the 40s over here to the table, which is major for this section. The 40s have been tightening with the 30s in this section, who both beef with 5-1 Trouble, 5 Deuce, and 5-9 Hoover in this section. So what we can see is the 60s, the 40s, and the 30s be with it. The 50s would be with it too. 5-5, 5-7, 5-8. I highly doubt they would be the odd man out in this section and want to keep the beef going. I think the 50s would be there too. So this whole section is now sold up. And like I said, the 5-1 Troubles is going to be with the 5 Deuce Hoovers. They already on the 5-1 Deuce. So they going to be right with it. But some interesting things really come to play with this whole movement right here. So when you have the 30s and the 40s, they mess with some of these hoods that we was talking about are not neighborhood or gangsters, but they fuck with neighborhood and rolling those sets. Hoods like Schoolyard, West Boulevard, and Gear Gang. And what you have with the Gangstas, which we've seen with the Hoovers and the Trey Card West LA Gangstas, more specifically Big Sad from Playboy, they've been in the jungles, fucking with BPS.
Tuck my fingers up in the air, I throw gang signs. Boy, you seen yellows, you ain't never see that main line. Suck my dick, then she get to calling you on FaceTime. Pop the scrap up, he ain't tripping, he gon' take on.
I walk in the dorm and peel, they like he banged out. My enemy's hoods is tatted and they wagged out. I'm straight to the back.
So this can really have implications all the way west, all the way to the far west, to Venice Showline hood, between these mid-city hoods and the West LA Trey Gangstas, as well as the City Stones and the Jungle Black P Stones. Now we know the West LA Trey gangs, most of them for the most part, BY, BF, Marvin's, Playboys, they all pretty much on one accord over here. Aside from maybe the Mansfields, I think the Mansfields and the West LA Treys, I don't know if they see eye to eye right now, but with that being a whole movement over there, I think that can be pieced together as well between the Mansfields and the other West LA Trey gangs. And with the loose connection that they have with the other gangsters throughout the city, we know they fuck with the A-Trays. I was on La Brea not too long ago, see the 5-1s hitting up over there. We could see, due to the situation with the 30s, not beefing with 5-1 and the 5 Deuce Hoovers, there could potentially be peace between the mid-city hoods and Schoolyard, West Boulevard and Gear Gang, and the West LA Treys. But that's also gonna include the beef between Venice Showline and these West LA Treys. Venice Showline is another hood that's gonna push the Deuce time. They're not neighborhood, but they've always pushed that Deuce. And they tight-knit with Schoolyard, and they fuck with the Harlems as well. So this could effectively end this West LA, far west, mid-city beef as well with these hoods. And like we said, we done seen the Gangstas and the Hoovers both in the jungles. So if we got the 30s and the 40s cool with the Hoovers and the 5-1s and the West LA Treys who fuck with the jungles and the City Stones. Now I'm going on a limb right now. This is just making the connections between who's fucking with who we seen with who, and when the beef stops, the jungles and the City Stones could come to the table to clean it up with the 30s and the 40s. Some other shit, man. Crazy shit. I told you, crazy implications, full-on domino effect, and we damn near got 100% of the west side on a peace tree. Now, the last hood over here in this section that could be affected by all of this, who also has representation in this whole situation, is going to be neighborhood Rollin 20 Bloods. Now, this is the area Skip Townsend is from, and I'm pretty sure Skip got his hands all over the situation, pushing peace throughout the city. We seen him on Rosecrans with the Pirus in Compton, and he's stamping his name as somebody that's pushing this motive in the city right now. So with the 20s, we know their main beef is going to be with the 30s and the 40s, as well as hoods in the mid-city and West LA as well. But mostly it's going to be the 30s that they going at it with. They cool with the Stones, but they have a real good relationship with the Brims. So to me, it's a no-brainer that the 20s would be able to come to the table and hash out their differences as long as everything else is going the way it should. The 20s may be the key to the city having the Brims along with this movement as well, because this hood is going to be close to Fruittown. Fruittown going to be locked in with them other two Brim sets, and again, they tighten in with the 20s. So if we see any movement from the Brims, I would say it's Skip Townsend from Rollin 20 Blood that's going to be able to do that. And this right here would effectively have about less than 10 hoods between the 10 and the 105 black gangs that's still beefing on the west side. Now, we're not talking about Hispanic gangs that's cool with some of these hoods that we've covered yet. We got to get to that because there's a lot of implications that go along with that as well. But something that some people may not realize is how the east side fits into this as well across the 110. The thing about the east side, man, the politics get real different, especially when we get to the 4-pack. Now, 4 Deuce, 4 Trey, and 4A Gangsta Crip is going to be right on the other side of the 110 from the west side 40s. But the thing is, these dudes, even though they Gangsta Crip, they main beef is with the 5 Trey and 40 Avalon Gangsta Crips.
Ain't no sitting back, we bless and play when it's go time. Show you pussy niggas how we slide on the A-line. Fuck Gamberlizzy on the set, ain't making no noise. That's South Park tripping, politicking with the Playboys. Flip a nigga top, trying to slide on even Playboy. And yeah, we told Glock with slapping choppers cause they make noise. South Park's where the Playboys play. In my Avalon Crips, I heard screaming, hey.
The Avalons is really pushing the 3. They fuck with the Gangsta Crip card. The 4-pack is going to be allied with the biggest neighborhood set on the east side. And that moving coast to coast movement, they tighten it with the East Coast Crips. And it's been like that for a very long time. So this is one of them gangster Crip hoods that we was talking about that's not really pushing the 3. Some people say they may as well just go become neighborhood because they beefing with the gangsters and they hanging with East Coast. And we also have Fido's Broadway gangster Crip in this area. So what we see is the neighborhoods on the west side getting along with the gangsters and the Hoovers. If East Coast goes along with that, from the 6-pack all the way down to 190, we can see the 4-pack clean it up with the 5 Trey and the 40 Avalons, as well as the Fido's Broadways. And this is one of the biggest beefs in South Park. So that would be something that's extremely monumental to transpire on the east side. But again, I feel like the 4-pack would only move if the East Coast neighborhood Crips was gonna move as well. So when we come down to them dudes, they kind of set the blueprint for how this whole situation can transpire with how everything was orchestrated between them and Florencia. Now, a key thing is, a lot of people are saying it's gonna take the little homies to be with it. It's gonna take the little homies to do this. The little homies gotta do that. We gotta holler at them.
When it's time, we gon' ball. We gon' buzz back, kill them all. Wanna blow about 10 racks at the mall. Then call it light work. And niggas only kill shit when they off a perk. Crazy on this planet Earth. I was raised up on the east, that shit'll really curse you. It ain't about money, it's respect, that's the real purpose. I've been fighting demons for a minute, but the bag splurge. Told her baby.
But what we seen with the East Coast, and we've talked about this with East Coast countless times, we see some real unity with the Coast Guard on the east side. They OGs got together with members of Florencia. I believe Skip Townsend was instrumental in that as well. But it was the OGs to hold their young members accountable. They older homies, like Doc Thone, wanted to stop the beef with Florencia. And if anybody in the coast wasn't with it, we seen dudes was being held accountable for their actions. So this is kind of going along with Young and Hefe when he's talking about, he doesn't understand when dudes is talking about hollering at the shooters or hollering at the young dudes that's outside putting work, because the older homies should be holding these dudes accountable and niggas should be putting belt to ass if they not following the program.
But them is the poison. So I say to like dudes that was at them meets, dudes that have them voices, what are we going to do? And I'm not saying nothing because I can't expect from them little situations that just happened yesterday that somebody is just going to go get at that younger homie or chastise them, you know what I'm saying, anything. I know I would, I'm going to go holler because, we having a peaceful rally and this what it is. But for the most part, like my young homies, they probably don't even like it. And I got a lot of them with the bullshit, but just for respect and respect purposes, they holding their tongue. But they want to get active and stupid too. They from A-Trade gangsters.
So I think that's the whole thing right there. This whole movement got to play out like that. It has to play out the same way Florence and East Coast played out. Everybody got to be with it, and whoever is not with it got to be held accountable or they can get their walking papers. Similar to how I'm talking about with the Bloccs. And I know some members of Hoovers saying the same shit. Some dudes from 60 saying the same shit. But I think the hoods and the hunters and the Hoovers would be able to somewhat break off, Like I said, them hoods, it's not just one hood. So if the 11 dudes Hoovers is not with it and the rest of the Hoover cars is with it, we can see some crazy game-changing stuff where dudes are starting to break off from their original car. Now, again, this is just all hypothetical talk, but these, again, are the implications to a major move like this, pushing peace throughout the city. So when we come right here with the 6-pack East Coast and 5-9 East Coast, they right across the way, not too far from these 5 Deuce Hoovers and the 7-4 Hoovers. If they can further ally with their West Side neighborhood counterparts, then they can put the beef down against the Hoovers as well, who are not far from them. And then again, that would clean up the low bottoms with 4 Deuce, 4 Trey, and 4-8, 40 Avalon, 5 Trey Avalon, and 5 Deuce Broadway. Because I believe the Broadway and the Coast have fixed their issues as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when we dropped East Side, South Central and spoke about it, a lot of people saying Broadway and the Coast not beefing. So that's already a step in the right direction with the Gangsta Crips set and the East Side neighborhood set not beefing. Now, some more action we can see outside the 6-pack is with the 7 Trey Gangsta Crips and the 7 Trey Hustlers. Dudes that used to be rolling with neighborhood, but have aligned themselves with the 5 Trey and the 8-8 Avalons. Now, mostly they beefing with the Swans, but I know the 7 Trey Hustlers, have been known to beef with the neighborhood Crips as well. So right outside the six-pack, we can see some more unity pressing up against that borderline with the Swans, where the 7 Trey Gangsta Crips and the 7 Trey Hustlers are no longer beefing with the neighborhood Crips.
Westmont, Diamond Lane, we frontline and shoot things. We pack fast straps and keep a sack, is how we do things. Tryna catch a nigga out slipping like a new game. LHP all the way to bump this so the rules came. We really hoop banging, fly shit in new chains. No matter what's the year, I'm tryna pull up in that new thing.
Now things get tricky when we get to the Swans. I believe the family Swans are tied in with Inglewood family and Centinela Park. We already spoke on what it would take for those two hoods in Inglewood to come to the table. But I do not think the alliance between the Swans and the families in Inglewood would be able to bring the Swans to any type of agreement. Again, West Side and East Side politics are a little different, with the Swans being arguably the most active hood on the East Side. Not talking Watts, not talking Compton. On the East Side of Los Angeles, these dudes are very active and they beef with everything in terms of the cripping. I don't think they look in the Peachtree with Gangstas or the neighborhood. So the Swans are going to be in another position, like we said the Brims was, if the 20s ain't able to get them on board on the West Side, or the Denver Lanes and the Crenshaw Mafias. We can see the Swans not having an incentive to want to stop the beef with their enemies. And another hood that has no implications in this situation, I believe, would be the Kitchens.
Looking on some hater shit, it's all good, nigga. Don't snuff around in my section. Watch, nigga, you know when I keep a weapon, no flexing. Niggas I know getting reckless, rob your bitch, ain't her granny, nigga. Better tuck your necklace. I'm sticking and moving, wood blowing while I'm cruising.
8-7 and 11-6. I think the Swans gonna stay there, and the Kitchens gonna stay there beefing with the Swans. Now, everything is already said to be cleaned up between the Kitchens and the East Coast, so that situation is already done. So I don't think there's any more further movement for them dudes to do. These dudes are a Crip gang, a CG, but I don't necessarily believe that these dudes is just rocking with every neighborhood Crip car or gangster car. So these dudes is just like in the middle of everything right now. Again, no incentive for these dudes to come to the table and have any implications, especially with hoods peace treating on the West Side. Now, an area that gets super tricky is between this 8-4 Main Street area, 9 Deuce 9-4 Hoover, 9-8 Main Street, and the 8-8 Avalon Gardens, as well as 8-7 and 9-7 Gangstas. I think this is one of the most trickiest areas on the East Side. So 8-7 and 9-7 is going to be just like the 4-pack, where they moving coast to coast. They're not repping Gangsta Crip, which in turn is causing them to beef with the 8-8 Avalons. But just like the 4-pack with 5 Trey Avalon and 40 Avalon, if them dudes can clean it up there in the low bottoms, we could potentially see something cleaned up between 9-7 and 8-7 and the 8-8 Avalons. Now, like I said, this is an extremely active area in the city, just like most of them that we cover. But when you throw Main Street and the Hoovers in this situation, things just continue to level up. So the Main Streets is also going to be beefing with the 8-7s and the 9-7s, as well as being involved in an extremely active beef right now with the Hoovers.
Jumping out the truck, get the shooting, they like, what the fuck? Caught his ass in traffic, boogie down and blew the engine up. He ain't pulled a skid, he need to go and turn his crippin' up. Only told the stock when the stash don't fit the sticky. Tiny loads up on they back block, we made Vermont Ave hot. Catch his ass on man, you see what happened to the last op. Give eviction notice how we moved him off the last block. Would've gave him 12 if I didn't miss the last shot. Try to pump a gas, he ain't even had.
Now the crazy thing is, like a lot of things that happen in the city, Main Street and the Hoovers used to be cool. They used to be real tight in this area. But, you know, things have transpired, the beef jumped off, and it's at an all-time high with the Young Life in both of these sets. But what we see, Main Street be fucking with them 9-0s. We see Chico and M-Hats fucking with each other. We seen Main Streets fucking with the neighborhood Crips.
Got nothing left. Mr. Call set, put up, he got a pound of chest. Me and the 5 together, Scary and Sean Kemp. Heard niggas going broke, now they got a pound of shit. You ain't never made shit happen, you ain't took a risk.
That's that shit to make you think. Ay. Make a bitch wanna pee. I could lead a bitch to water for the fee. I'm a play ass nigga, you can see.
So, if the 9-0s can clean this shit up with the Hoovers, as well as the Gangstas, because this Main Street hood is not too far from A-Trey either, we could see Main Streets and the Hoovers restore their relationship that they used to have years ago. It wasn't too long ago that these dudes was cool. So I think some things could transpire, especially what the 9-0s and the Hunters is doing on the west side with the Hoovers could carry over to 8-4 and 9A Main Street on the east side and 9-deuce 9-4, as well as the other Hoovers can be cool again with the main streets. But I don't know what the implications would truly be between Main Street and 8-7 and 9-7 Gangsta Crip. So that can still be something that remains on this side of town. But like I said, right now, Main Street, I don't know how heavy they beefing with 8-7, 9-7. They really on them Hoovers right now. So that's the main thing that I feel like would have to be cleaned up and potentially could be cleaned up based on this whole situation. Now over here by the 9A Mains, you got two other neighborhood East Coast sets. You got 9-7 East Coast and Q102 East Coast. And both of these hoods is really going borderline Watts. Now, most of Watts has no implications to any of this shit that's going on. Most of it. Hoods like Bounty Hunter, PJ Watts, Hat Gang, 9-Deuce Bishop, Circle City, Hacienda Village. These dudes gonna have really no implications with this 30 to the 100 movement on the west side, this neighborhood Crip, Gangsta Crip, and Hoover shit. But one hood in Watts that does have implications is gonna be Grape Street Watts.
Great Wall. Ooh. You don't even understand how the fuck my grades talk. Ooh. Pull up on your block with my grades and take your face off. Huh? New project bitch had to cut my other grape off. Ooh. 1200, you can call it bullet 100 for a Great Wall.
Now we know Grape Street is known to have a beef with East Coast. It's been said that recently that beef has kind of died down. There hasn't been too much action between them hoods. But there also hasn't been a peace treaty where these hoods have came together. Now with that being said, Grape Street is known to fuck with some Gangsta Crip hoods and the Hoovers. So one could say, with the Hoover gangsters and the neighborhoods being cleaned up, this could potentially clean up the beef between the neighborhood East Coast Crips and the Grape Streets. The Grape Streets don't have many allies. And at one point, East Coast and Grape was cool. Like I said, that's a common narrative. Most of these hoods were on good terms at one point, if not all of them, aside from the usual blood and Crip beef. A lot of these Crip hoods was dealing with each other before. So this could bring Grape to the table with East Coast, especially the ones right next to them, 8-9, 9-7, Q102. We could see the beef between these dudes be eradicated as well. Now going back a little west, still on the east side, hoods like Front Street and Back Street, I don't think there's going to be implications there. Even though Back Street is known to beef with some neighborhood Crips, I don't think they're necessarily allied with any Gangsta Crips or the Hoovers. So I don't think they have any incentive to want to stop their beef with hoods like 11 Deuce, which is a neighborhood Crip set right over here. But there's also an 11 Deuce Broadway set. Now this Broadway set is also, just like 5 Deuce, a Gangsta Crip set. Also considered to be a west side hood, even though it's on the east of the 110 because of the Main Street divide, but that's neither here nor there. What's being said lately also, when we talked about these dudes in our Watts video, a lot of people was coming saying they also clean their beef up with East Coast. I don't know how true that is. They've been known to historically beef with the neighborhood Crips and the Denver lanes that's just across the 110 from these dudes. Like we said, Denver lane is probably going to stay where it's at. They're going to stand on their business over there in their hood. They're not going to be moving for no Peace Street. I highly doubt that. But with the Broadways next to the 11 Deuce neighborhood Crips, and the 11 Deuce neighborhood is going to be the only neighborhood set on the east side that's not an East Coast hood. They've been known to be for Broadway. And then you got 11-8 East Coast Block Crip, another Block hood. They are part of East Coast, but they push Block Crip, just like the UGs, just like the 107 blocks on the west side. This is another Block Crip hood, but they rock with the neighborhoods. So what people are saying about these dudes being cordial with the 11 Deuce Broadways, we can see this area kind of cleaned up as well. Again, these Watts hoods is going to remain in they beef. Front Street, Back Street, all the other shit we named. I don't know where 10 line remains in this section. I don't think 10 line is really pushing that 3. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. But 10 line is also a hood that's probably not going to be affected by this situation. But nonetheless, it's still a lot of area that's being cleaned up over here, potentially. We so deep in the water right now with this point of view. This is all potential right here. But this is something that'll have 80% of the city of Los Angeles cleaned up. We're not talking Compton, but we will touch on Gardena. this Gardena, Hawthorne, West Athens area, you got the Raymonds, and Raymonds is also going to be in Inglewood too. But the Raymonds on the 120th, that's going to be their largest section. And Raymond is also going to be beefing with the Hoovers. They're not far from this 11 Deuce and 107 section. So that's the beef that could potentially be cleaned up because these dudes, like I said, they're also in Inglewood. So if we see peace all through Inglewood between the Legends and the Bloods, the Raymonds could take part in that as well. These dudes also push the Deuce time. So there could be implications with the Raymonds. Now the Raymonds is tucked right in between the Denver Lanes and the Athens Park and Payback. So they would be on good terms with Payback, but of course they still be beefing with hoods like Athens and Denver Lane. The Athens is a hood, a blood hood that is probably not moving. They fuck with the Millers, ain't no incentive for them. Like I said, the Bloods are somebody that's not really being talked about because it's not a lot of implications for these dudes to peace treat. So most of the hoods that you gonna see still looking to really beef it is gonna be these blood hoods. And you also got a few more Gangsta Crip hoods that's in this Gardena Hawthorne area. You got Shotgun, who pushes the 3. They fuck with the Gangsta Crips. They beefing with the neighborhoods, beefing with the Hunters, and beefing with the Raymonds. This is a set that could come to the table as well. Again, this is further, this is down to 105 in Gardena. But these are the type of implications that neighborhood, Gangsta Crip, and Hoover peace could bring to the streets of LA. Now, a little more west over here, we do got 11A Gangsta Crips, we got Imperial Village, and we got Mad Ass Gangsta Crips. It's said that these 3 hoods low-key get along, and it's known for Imperial Village to also get along with some of the Hunters. So I think this area would be cool as well, where we see the beef die down, especially between the Bloods and Inglewood. So, you know, with this, again, this was just my take on it. A lot could really transpire, and truly, nothing could transpire. You know what I'm saying? Things could stay the way they are. But it's crazy to see so many hoods of such a high magnitude want to come to the table and talk about cleaning the city up, because truly, everything we talking about could actually happen because of the alliances that are had between these sets. And we're going to talk about the Sudanos as well. We're going to have a video about the Sudanos, and we're going to talk about what happened if they all came together and pushed a peace treaty. And what would it look like with the Sudano hoods that coexist with some of these black hoods and get along with some of these black hoods and beef it against some of these black hoods. We're going to touch on all of that. Y'all stay tapped in with the channel. We're going to keep providing the content, man. We appreciate all the subscribers. We still on the road to 100K. Y'all make sure y'all follow us on Instagram as well, man. Rap News Street Politics.